Hey, I'm Jeff, and I make music with my brother.
Hi, I'm Jonathan, and I also make music with my brother.
Together, we are Ekko and Sidetrack, and we make music that sounds like this.
And this.
And even this. This podcast is about music, creativity, and everything in between.
Welcome to A Band Apart with Ekko and Sidetrack.
Jonathan.
Jeff.
Cheers.
There
Ooh.
Don't know how I felt about that.
COVID safe. Cheers.
Cheers, everybody. Cheers, Jeff. Haven't had a beer on a podcast for a while.
No, we're doing a beard podcast because it's in the evening time. Normally record these podcasts in the morning, so it's not really suitable for a beer, unless you're that kind of a person. I have, over the course of my week, picked up two things that I wanted to bring up with you. I saved them. I didn't mention them in a text message or anything like I normally might.
Thank you.
And they're not serious at all, but one was a strange observation, and the other one was something that I just found bloody ridiculous. I'll start with a strange observation.
Sure.
It's to do with movies, but you can play the game with songs or famous people or anything. It's how relevant things are to your time and how quickly things fall off your radar. I was looking through IMDb at movies the other day, and Holly and I were talking about the movie Cool Runnings.
Yep.
Or Rust a Rocket if you're in France, or Coconut Run if you're in some parts of Europe. But this movie, everyone knows the movie about the Jamaican bobsled team. But I thought the name Cool Runnings just does not mean shit to some people.
Yeah.
If you're 20 years old, you're probably like, what the hell is Cool Runnings?
Absolutely.
That sounds like a made up movie.
Yeah.
So I wound the clock back 10 years and went to the Academy Awards and said the movies that won the Best Picture in 1983, 10 years before Cool Runnings. And I wanted to know how many of the movies I recognized their names. And probably 3. And then there were movies like Sophie's Choice, A Quest for Fire. And I just was struck by this overwhelming thing, like, they sound made up. It's like people going like, oh man, have you seen A Quest for Fire? I'm like, that sounds like something you just fucking made up.
A Quest for Fire sounds like a name you would make up.
But there was another...
Because what is it about?
Yeah, there was another one. There was
a quest for... Other than A Quest for Fire.
But even The English Patient sounds made up, if you don't know what it is.
Yeah, out of context, most film names kind of sound quite ridiculous.
And then some people are like, oh, you've never seen Scream? If you didn't understand the context, it just sounds like a weird thing. So I don't know, I wanted to get your perspective on, like titles and context and, yeah.
I think anything outside your realm of understanding or what you've grown up with seems odd. And that goes for movies, it goes for bands, it goes for trends, it goes for anything. Like I remember... I'm
just going to keep talking. I'm just going to find another movie for you.
I remember being a kid, of being like 13, 14, and listening to punk music and mum and dad not really understanding. It's not like they didn't understand us as people, but they didn't understand the kind of music, why we were into that kind of music. And that's exactly the same as we might listen to some 15-year-old's TikTok account and they've got music they're listening to, or Spotify account rather, they've got music they're listening to that's completely irrelevant, and we're like, this is shit music.
And the artist is called Brown Tank Rolling.
Yeah.
And they're like, that's
huge. Like Brown Tank Rolling, and you're like, but what about Blink-182? And they're like, who's that?
Who's Blink-182?
Everything's relevant to your experience, I guess. Including movie titles.
There was a movie nominated for Best Picture in 1983 called Missing and The Verdict.
I feel like I've seen the movie. The
Gandhi
Verdict.
won the Oscar. E.T. also followed close behind. Officer and a Gentleman was also a movie in that era.
But when you go down this road, like The Godfather sounds weird out of context.
Yeah, I know. Maybe it is
Titanic.
Maybe it is a little silly, but I was just struck by this thing that's like, it's like hearing someone really in the know talk about a movie and be like, their best performance was in Quest for Fire. And you're like, that movie doesn't exist.
Quest for Fire are a silly name. Specifically, Quest for Fire sounds ridiculous.
I would.
There's got to be something else that happens in that movie that title isn't the best title to come up with.
But then again, like, Volcano is a stupid name for a movie.
Great movie. Dante's Peak. Everest. Australia.
If you start thinking, it's like saying a word
Too many times.
You just sound
Exactly.
silly.
And it's the same that goes with spelling.
Yeah. Well, and that's the end of that.
What's the ridiculous thing that you...
Insight. Well, I wanted to ask you about what are your thoughts on combined experience? As in
The movie?
1984, the 1984 classic starring Paul Newman. I loved it. Well deserving of the best supporting actress.
And from Tommy Lee.
Um,
I'd watch... What is that movie about?
what?
Combined experience.
Combined experience. A cult?
I thought it should be combine experienced. Experience. And
So
it's
like
about
a comedy.
it's a comedy about like farming equipment. Like a buddy comedy between
Throw back to the joke I told a few weeks ago if you missed it.
Clint Eastwood's the farmer, and then Tommy Lee plays the voice role of a combine tractor that comes to life because it's Clint Eastwood's wish as a boy that he forgets about, but then uncovers a stone that opens and allows the wish to become true. I'd watch the fuck out of that movie.
I wouldn't. I'm not a huge Clint Eastwood fan, but we need not go down that.
Oh, yeah. We
That
watched
road.
a movie that was shit with Clint Eastwood. Anyway, combined experience.
Combined experience. So
Yes.
what I mean by that is I have 10 years experience making music. You have 10 years experience.
Yeah.
We say to someone we have over 20 years of experience, of combined experience. Or a law firm that says we have over 100 years of combined experience.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a thing worth making some noise about? Because I heard a company make a wild claim the other day, and I was struck by the fucking ridiculousness of it.
I don't think it makes your company any better. But I like it as a measurement. And it depends what kind of company. If it's a family-run jeweler that's the grandfather, the father, and the son,
Yes.
and together, and they're all still alive, and
Yes.
you say it's 180 years of experience.
Yes.
As long as it's not the age of the person, the time that they've worked there.
Yes. That makes perfect sense.
Then I go, cool, I'm going to go get a ring made from that person rather than another vendor.
Yes.
But
if
bigger businesses,
So how would you feel if
so
you
in
were...
the creative realm, I accept it.
Okay.
Is what I feel.
And I agree. I think the family legacy thing
Yeah.
means something. How would you feel if you were a national, maybe an international company, and you claim to have 14,000 years worth of experience?
No, that's stupid.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Because that's just counting every employee you have that's worked for you for 10 years. And you're like, yeah, I got 800 employees. So that's how much experience
With
we
over
have.
975,000 years. But,
That's
man,
ridiculous.
It says 14,000.
Ooh,
Shout
what
out
company?
shout out to Flight Centre. On their
and we like Flight Centre.
Yeah, we do like Flight Centre.
But is
on
it
their
a joke?
No, they not. It's on their hold music. They say with over 14,000 years worth of experience. And in my head, I'm like, were you booking flights at the dawn of the last ice age? If you weren't, please shut the fuck up.
Yeah, it suggests that you have been at it for a long time.
Yeah.
And
even saying 500 years of experience in the flight game, I'm sorry, you just weren't.
But flight was only invented
100
just over 100 years ago.
Yes. Don't say that. Don't say your combined
Do
experience.
you think that's got to be like a joke? Someone that's created
the script?
the hold music has written that and just put it in there. No way can someone at Flight Centre in the upper echelons be like, I want to put forward this idea where the average age of our employees is 32. They've been working for us for 10 years. We have X amount of employees. That's over 14,000 years of experience if you think about it. And someone's gone, that's a great marketing tool and I believe in it. And I think that sets us apart from our competitors.
There are
no way.
Thomas Cook or some other flight company. That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, that is crazy.
It's like there are
it sounds
civilizations that don't last that long. Massively. Like
it's ludicrous.
That would be like saying, ancient Egypt did not last that long.
As long as the experience
of flights. Modern humans.
I think modern humans have been around for about 200,000 years.
Yeah, but
which is as much experience as we have in producing music.
Well,
with everyone else that produces drum and bass.
Yeah.
It does get to a point where you just like, it's a ridiculous metric.
Yeah, exactly. And I just wanted to share it with you because it is stupid.
I will say, I do think it's a joke.
You listened.
If it was underneath their if it was on an ad,
it says it's clear. It says
if it was on a TV ad
with over 14,000 years of experience, and I'm like, there are fossils, there are tombs that are waiting to be unearthed that started 14,000 years ago.
It's probably started younger.
Yeah, there's things that 5,000 years ago.
It doesn't make me want to choose Flight Centre.
But we have chosen Flight Centre to book our flights to Europe. If you're in Europe and you'd like to get in touch or see us play, get in touch with Ricky at urbanagency.com.au or is it .co.uk?
.co.uk, buddy.
Yeah, get in touch. We'll come to your town. Yeah. And the reason I do know about the Flight Centre thing is because I have made several phone calls with them, recently. And I was shocked by hearing that.
Yeah, that is pretty ridiculous.
Well, that's my week.
I wanted to talk about our brother. Our brother was at a concert the other day.
We have an older brother. He lives in Texas with a family.
That is not his own.
That is not his own. And he found them online and he left us.
And lives with a Guatemalan contingent.
Yeah. But they're very, very, very welcoming.
They're beautiful. So Ben went to a concert the other day and was at a concert and he was messaging us and saying he was watching Dashboard Confessional. If anyone out there that doesn't know who Dashboard Confessional are, they're an acoustic band, very popular in the early 2000s. And we all kind of like them. They've got a tune called Vindicated, which is a banger. I think you liked pop punk.
You guys were into them more than I was.
Yeah.
I think I was.
Definitely. But it made me go back and listen to... He was messaging us, and then Jimmy Eat World was coming up after.
Yeah.
And it made me go back and listen to some of that music, some of the music I listened to in 2003, 2004, 2005. And it made me feel extremely emotional. And now I think I've talked about this before, but it came back up in my mind. How much feeling I got from the music and how much it made me feel back then. And how I think that music was kind of replaced by drum and bass to some extent when I was younger. And then drum and bass was then replaced by house music and other things that gave me that feeling. But it was such a deep and foundational part of me that when I listened to Vindicated, I knew the words and the notes he hits and the harmonies, and I was like, oh God, fucking yes. fuck yes, everyone needs to listen to this song. This is such a good song. It also made me think of how I felt about music at that time and moments when music was an important part, and kind of moments in my life when I was that age that music really spoke to me. One of them was I was in the back of a car, in the boot of a car.
That's a fucking great place to be as a teenager or a slightly older going somewhere.
I must have been 17, maybe 18.
Things are happening, and there's more people than there should be.
I'm drunk, and The Black Parade by My Chemical Romance is playing. Now, I didn't love My Chemical Romance, but I did love a couple of tunes off that album and do think they're a good band. But I'm not like a diehard My Chemical Romance fan. That was the kind of the tail end of punk and emo music for me. That was when it was getting too poppy. But I remember The Black Parade. I think it's The Black Parade. Anyway, listening to that song and singing it and like squirming super passionately on the freeway, and the entire car was singing it. I also had another memory of being with my first girlfriend on New Year's Eve.
Shout out to Vivian.
In a spa.
Whoa.
With my friend and his girlfriend.
Whoa.
And they went inside, and I was...
Don't stop the story there, buddy.
And
it's getting good.
Maybe this isn't actually New Year's Eve. Maybe this is a day before, like a couple of days before or a couple of days after. But her family, the girl's house who we were at, who was my friend's girlfriend, her family's away. So it's like two newly lovers. We're 18. We're having drinks. No one's home.
Everyone's erect.
There was a lot of erectness. And then they went inside, and we're sitting outside, and the music's playing. And for some reason, they've got, the girl whose house it was had Snow Patrol album playing. And the first Snow Patrol album was very strong. And this is before they kind of, again, got taken up by the commercialization of...
I only know that Snow Patrol album.
Of being on Grey's Anatomy. So this has got to be when I was like 16. And I can't remember, maybe it was that light up, and it was blaring, and I was making out with my girlfriend, and I remember being like, yeah, I'm in a movie. I feel like I'm in a movie.
Soundtrack to your life.
Soundtrack to my life. And I've got these snippets of I've got this kind of musical scene of in every kind of different phase of my life. The drum and bass one is probably hearing Follow the Light.
Running back into the club.
Yeah. Or if we ever at Chasing Status at Gilkinson's and running and finding Chris and fucking grabbing him and being on the dance floor like, this is fucking it. Like the euphoric moments, Coast to Coast by Matrix and Future Bound. Those like
enjoying music as a punter, you do. I sometimes do miss that. Like it's a slightly different mindset, and I think I'm looking forward to reclaiming some of that.
Recapture the pulse.
Yeah, recapturing the pulse of that as we, shows return and things happen again.
And we can go again. And
also to see music that I'm a fan of, but is not the music that I make.
Yeah.
You can be in the crowd and you're like, yeah, I'm vibing. I'm so excited to see Fred again at Parklife. I'm excited to see fucking 50 Cent. I'm pumped to see Bicep. Yeah. All the drum and bass. Like that lineup is awesome.
Parklife Manchester.
If you'd like to book us in Manchester, get in touch with Rick.
And yeah, I can't. It's funny. I think about the first thing that comes to mind. The last time I felt lost in the dance is not the last time, but a time that I felt lost in the dance was when we did that tour with the Brooks Brothers and Trey, and dancing to Trey's set at Chinese Laundry. and drinking his tequila and being in the front row, and I was going crazy because I hadn't heard like techie drum and bass and heavy drum and bass for a while, and I was fucking loving it. And I was so pissed, but I was lost in the dance. I didn't know, I didn't remember where I was almost. You know, when you just get
And it didn't matter.
stuck in and it didn't matter, and then you kind of come to and you're like, whoa, I was not there for a moment. I was genuinely lost.
You make music, you want music to kind of take you to another place. And what's funny is when you make music, you can spend so much time trying to like imagine where people would be or like where this music might take them. I think you've got to let that story be their own.
Yeah.
You've just got to create a cool story.
Well, the way I think about it when I make music is I make music that takes me to that same place. And I assume that if it takes me there, it'll take someone else there.
That's a very good way of looking at it.
I'm not thinking about how someone else is going to emotionally react to it. I only think about that stuff when we're thinking about groove and danceability and mix stuff. When I write a chord or when I write a lead or when I write a musical element, I'm not thinking about how it makes someone else feel. I'm thinking about how it makes me feel, and by proxy, how it will make X percentage of the population feel.
The musical moments that we remember are like really iconic though. And you have, I wonder if we've created some for some people,
We definitely have.
which makes me happy.
People have said to us before, how our music makes them feel, how shows we've played have made them feel. It's the good part, just the good part. It's a part of what makes doing what we do worthwhile.
Yeah.
I always think about the girl when we played down in Mandurah, when we were skipping the line after we played the show, and then we're going to like the regular club, I think, to play again. And some girl saw us skipping the line and was like, called out to us. I was like, Ekko and Sidetrack, Ekko and Sidetrack. And we went over and talked to her, and she was like, I just want to say, Alone Without You is my favorite song ever. And I recently broke up with my boyfriend, and he was a dick, but I was like listening to the song, and it really means a lot, and blah, 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 blah. And being like, whoa, a song we wrote helped that girl. Similar people have said things about Synchronized, about Paper Birds.
Yeah.
Not so much Combat, but I don't think it's that kind of song. But if someone had, that would be beautiful.
Someone's lost their mind to Combat.
Someone's definitely lost their mind to Combat. People have lost their mind to a lot of our music, but like, if other people's music makes you feel something, then your music definitely makes other people feel something.
Absolutely.
And it's all about perspective, though. And again, you lose a bit of that perspective when you make so much music because you're right up close here. So you're listening to every little exact minutia part of the tune and where's it sitting, how's it being EQ'd, blah, blah, blah. You're not taking the whole thing in as an experience.
Which I think sometimes you do have to try and remove yourself. Like, that's why the danger of too early in the songwriting process just soloing a certain sound.
Yeah.
You all of a sudden just like lose all the energy. Like, because it's the combination of sounds. We've written songs and spent so much time on sounds and layers and everything else. And then in the final song, the final version that everyone gets and people have loved and it's streamed well and everything like that, the piece you worked on is actually in the background just going bzz,
Yeah, absolutely.
bzz,
Things get tucked away.
and you're like, oh, did I have to strain and struggle? Maybe not, but at the same time, it's how I got to the spot, so.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to set up a mix of all our music in a chronological or a key order. And even just on Spotify, go into the rehearsal room downstairs, turn off all the lights, and lie there and experience an hour's and a half worth of Ekko and Sidetrack songs and see how we felt.
Yeah.
And try to detach ourselves from the holding on to the potential trauma bonds we have with some of the songs, you
It's
know?
hard, I think it's hard. I find it sometimes hard to listen to a song and not hear it as my own.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like it's like my song, our song. I'm just saying is like the song that we made will always sound like it does. I'm like, I know where that came from. Whereas listening to someone else's song, I'm like, whoa, that's a complete mystery.
But that's the same as, that's the same thing as, you know, we've been doing some production tutorials or some teaching lately. If you're interested in learning or getting some tutorials, hit us up or hit Ricky at Urban Agency. Just thought I'd give it the 3. The trifecta. But if, you know, and we're finding that people are coming in varying degrees of production knowledge, but there's a little bit of like, I'm going to find out the secret. I'm going to find the magic thing that's going to make my music sound like a polished piece of production.
Ekko and Sidetrack knows something, 1 or 2 things that I don't know, and that's going to unlock the door.
And that could be true to a certain extent because of just knowledge.
Yeah.
But it's this. There seems to be this ideal that like there's a secret, and it's the same thing. We've felt that. I felt that before I've gone in the studio with Carl.
Yeah.
I felt that before I've been in the studio with fucking Dimension, Subfocus. When I've heard Wilkinson, when I've seen behind the veil, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna find out the EQ they use that makes everything sound awesome.
And what does he do? He does.
But
it looks like he does exactly what we do.
Exactly. But it's having better ears. It's having better ears and better knowledge on how to apply something.
But not even better, just different. Like music is
and more and more experience. But what I'm trying to get to is like that's the same thing, or that's the same feeling that you have not being able to listen to someone else's music, being like, mine sounds different to how yours sounds. But the difference is that it's yours, not that it's inferior or that it's better or that you're doing something wrong. It's just that it's yours.
And I think if you've seen the whole thing being made, it's a bit harder to remove yourself from it because you know that a certain sound started out not very good, or things like that you've seen along the whole process.
But what does that have to do with anything? If a sound started out,
you just know the process.
But it's
But
it's interesting if you looked at a painting that you really liked. You really liked the Mona Lisa, and you looked at it and go, yeah, but this just used to be a canvas.
Yeah.
It did used to just be a canvas. Like, it's a nice painting, but it did used to just be a canvas.
Yeah.
That seems like a crazy thing to say. But then we listen to music, or we do listen to our own music, and sometimes do have that kind of attitude. Like, that sound was a bit shit, or like, I was never happy with that sound. Yeah, but the whole painting or the whole song is great. That's the timer. Sorry, we just had to have a little break because there's Ricky from Urban Agency has emailed us, and
just say the whole painting is great.
The whole painting's great. And that it's like I think that comes from wanting to focus how we do and how a lot of people do, especially on their own art, is focusing on the negative. It's the same thing when someone comes up and says, "Great set, man," and you go, I fucked up here and I fucked up this, and you go to the negative because you kind of you almost don't want to take in the appreciation.
Mm.
And it's not just with sets, and that's something we used to do like 6 or 7 years ago. But I remember talking to you about it, and we were like, let's just start saying thank you. And we did. And then suddenly our sets got better, or at least our perception of our sets got better.
It's all perception.
Because it is our perception. So if you measure a song afterwards, not by the experience of writing the song, but the actual end product, you would be much more happier with your work, unless you're putting shit work out.
But this is, for me, it's not about happiness or even my judgment of the work. I think our music's great. I just hear it differently. I just hear different things. It's like,
But so what's the next, hearing something differently, and what's the next thought?
I'm not sure you can ever completely enjoy something you've created so fastidiously, and for such a long amount of time.
Yeah, I would agree.
Exactly like someone who's hearing it for the first time.
I would agree.
And hearing it.
I would agree with that completely.
Yeah, which I think kind of dovetails in with the good art, or art in general, is abandoned. It's never finished.
Yeah,
because there's always something else you could do to it, and not that it's good or bad. It's that it just is the thing that you've been making.
and it's also the first, like when they go back and remaster a movie. You remember when Steven Spielberg and George Lucas went back and like remastered? They remade E.T. They added things to E.T., took some guns out.
Did they add things to E.T.?
I think they added
They
some
did
scenes.
Star Wars.
Or they did. Or even Star Wars. Yeah, great example. The special editions of Star Wars added some characters, changed Jabba the Hutt into not being a human because he's a human in the first one. Do you think there's people out there that watched the special edition ones? I mean, I don't think they were that much changed, but watched them and I'm like, it's not the same because it's not the original thing that I watched.
Yes,
because
definitely.
that's the first time you show me a song and it's the first time I've ever heard it. So my experience of that song is like, I like that. What you gave it to me, I like. But for you, it's the 400th time you've heard it. And you're like, it's not done yet. So you go back in there and you cook it some more. And then you bring it back to me.
What is that?
Someone's trying to break in. It's probably the people in the warehouse next to us scraping around.
Quit scratching around.
It's and then you bring the song back out and go, here it is. And I go, it's not
The same.
It's not the same. And you're like, but yeah, it is. It's better. And you're like, but it's not.
But that's
the
the
same.
power of the demo as well. When you make a demo, you get something that's got a vibe. It's important that you keep some of that vibe as you keep working. Otherwise, you can kill the song for what it was and just start turning it into something completely different.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not sure what it is with music or movies or whatever it is. I imagine when you create something, man, Biggie Juice makes me burp. Maybe it's the disconnect between what's in your head and what comes out. It's that
expectation.
Yeah, expectation. My idea is this, and this is what I've created, and both are good, but I just did both are good, but they are not the same thing. And I think that's something important to do, because you compare your music or your art to anything anyone else does, and no matter what you do, it's not going to be the thing that they did.
No.
Even if you made a direct copy, it's not going to be the thing that they did. So it is automatically different.
Yes.
And it should be judged on its own merits.
And different. As a society, I think we've got this thing about different often equals worse to some extent.
What do you mean?
Like, if I want to try to make a song, I want to try to make Out of the Blue by Subfocus. Right? Big tune. What a great song. I want to try to remake that song. So I try to remake it. And I remake a version that, in my opinion, it isn't as produced to the same level, and songwriting isn't the same. And it ends up being different to Out of the Blue. And in my head, I go, it's worse than Out of the Blue.
But if it's a...
And then someone else goes, no, it's just a different song that kind of sounds like Out of the Blue, but actually I prefer your song to Out of the Blue. And it's better in their mind, but it's still in yours, it's worse. Different is worse. And I also think that when I said that, I was thinking about maybe, which is a bigger topic, which is people wanting to be more of the same nowadays, and anything different is people think it's bad to be different.
Well, no, you can be different as long as it's the same as other people that are being different.
Yeah.
You're allowed to sit in the alternative category as long as there were other people sitting in that alternative category.
I think you can still sit in the alternative category.
It's just less
revered.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah,
I'm not sure my brain is ready to joust in this.
No, maybe being different wasn't the right. Maybe that was
If it's a shitty copy,
lazy language.
If it's a shitty copy, it's a shitty copy. But if it's a shitty copy that becomes a good song in its own right, then that's fine. But if you're judging it as a copy against that other song, then it hasn't done what you've set out to do. But yeah,
the magic of songwriting.
If you'd like to get in touch with either of us, you can reach us by emailing Ricky. Jonathan, did you enjoy the movie that I recommended for you the other day?
I did. Jeff recommended me watch The Mitchells vs. the Machines.
It's on Netflix. It was made by Sony Pictures. I recommend it.
And I recommended it to a friend at the gym, and she did not like it. And I was like, you don't have a good taste in movies.
Was this the first movie you'd recommended to her?
Yes. It's always a rough moment.
Yeah. What kind of...
do that. It doesn't matter.
How did it come up?
I really like...
recommending it to her.
Oh, yeah. We were talking about movies that we'd watched, and we're recommending movies to each other.
Did she recommend a movie to you?
No. Not yet. But her favourite movie was Shawshank Redemption. And I said, yeah, that's everyone's favourite. Anyway, don't get defensive or
I'm not getting defensive
about her. Let's talk about the movie. The movie's really Mitchell vs. the Machines. Very funny. On the same level as Lego Movie.
Yeah.
Or Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Yeah.
Both made by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. Who are very funny guys.
Yeah.
Who, if you have never watched, you should go back and watch Clone High, which is their TV show they made. One season about a high school populated by clones of famous historical figures.
Abraham Lincoln, Gandhi, Cleopatra, Joan of Arc.
It is
JFK.
So funny.
So ridiculous, so funny, and the animation's sick. And that was an iconic show.
Yeah.
I'd love to...
Made by the same guys that
DVD.
made Scrubs as well.
Yeah.
Bill Lawrence.
But it's... Yeah, so either way, the Mitchells versus the Machines is a funny, comment on current society, and I really like the animation style, and it tells a story with heart. And I think, although we skew a little bit older for the target audience, I think it's a cool movie. Yeah,
it's got some nice moments. It's got some ridiculous, funny moments.
Yeah,
that laugh out loud funny.
Yeah, I thought so, but it won't be for everyone. I'm reluctant to recommend animated movies to people
Yeah.
until I know that they are looking for something.
You know what I don't like hearing, and I have heard it before, when I've recommended an animated film and that person goes, I don't watch kids' movies.
Yeah, you're a fuckstick.
And I go,
You're more of a child than the people that like animated
yeah.
movies.
I kind of go like, that's not what it is. And you're stuck in that mindset that all animated visual art is
For kids.
for kids.
And does that mean all movies with real people in them are for adults?
Yeah, and I just don't see
Enjoy
that.
watching Big Bang Theory, you stupid fuck.
I don't see that separation.
No.
I kind of see like once you get over 8, you have access to a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, you've got the world is.
You should be able to watch a lot of different stuff, you know.
Absolutely, and absorb all sorts of different kinds of media, animated, computer animated, drawn, documentary, or otherwise. That's like saying documentaries. You don't like documentaries because then they're like too
For school,
real.
they're for like
School.
studying.
They're too real.
But some people are like that. They're like, oh, what do I want to learn?
I say
Some people are
cut
living
those people out of your life.
in a different world to you and I.
Absolutely.
Some better, some for the better, some for the worse.
Yeah.
But that's the magic of being alive.
You're really taking some like leaps today. Like movies, what a concept. And then like, but things are bad and people are disappointed with things. What if this is a comment on society in general?
I'm just thinking, like I'm trying to think more and expand thoughts in my head and articulate those thoughts rather than just being one sentencey and try to question my own reality and try to question my own motivation behind some of the things I say.
Yeah, it's good.
Because you say something and then you're like, well, hang on, do I actually believe that whatever?
What's something you believe? You asked me the other week. What's something you believe that you might be retracting your statement on? What's something that you used to believe that you no longer believe? I used to believe that JFK might have been killed by a lone gunman, and I now believe the CIA killed him.
I never believed.
I'm saying I never believed, but I was like, yeah, maybe. But now I've seen
It's Oliver Stone's
documentary. Which is great viewing before Mitchells versus Machines.
There was a point when I was working at Perth Racing as a horse race cameraman that I was listening to a lot of Duncan Trussell podcasts, and he was talking at that stage a lot about Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley is one of the most famous Satanists and members of the practicing occult in the early 1900s, late 1800s. And I started watching YouTube documentaries about him. This is in 2013 or 2014. And
was that when you worked there?
Yeah.
The mind boggles time.
Nearly
what
10 years ago.
Seems like further.
Maybe 2015, Anyway, so I was watching that on my iPhone 2 in the tower. And that then led me down rabbit holes of demonic spirits and demons in the sky and that kind of thing. And there was a point there that I believed that shapes and apparitions that had been caught on film were demons, airborne demons that were in the sky and were trying to find hosts or try to find another temporal doorway into their home or another world. This is around a similar time when I was interested in Skinwalker Ranch and that type of...
You're very conspiratorial. It was not uncommon for me to walk into the computer room and find Jonathan on the computer watching a conspiratorially focused documentary.
Yeah, but I got heavily into
on YouTube
the idea of demons and Crowley. And on reflection now, I believe there are even more demons in the sky than have previously told. No, I don't think that was real, and I don't think that he was as in touch with that other side as those videos were telling me. He's still very like not a good guy and still very part of the occult. But I remember taking some of those videos in and being like, oh my God, there's demons in the sky. And being pretty and being quite convinced of that, and being a bit worried that no one else was concerned with it. And I had those feelings that I'm sure people have experienced with like QAnon and Pizzagate and all these other things, of being like, why aren't more people talking about it?
Mm.
So yeah, that's something I don't really believe in anymore.
Demons in the sky. I believe in demons, but just not. I think they're more terrestrial.
Yeah.
Just the way you put it, like, after all this explanation, like, I no longer believe in demons in the sky.
It seems I remember being so convinced and it bothering me. Yeah. And I think I swear I mentioned it to you and was like, I'm going to stop watching these videos because I don't think they're doing me any good.
Yeah, I mean, like...
because they're kind of bringing me down a bit.
Absolutely. Can you imagine we had a weekly podcast where we just talked about, like, the occult and demons and chanted incantations?
And I think
that would bring bad juju into both of our lives.
Absolutely.
And then we could blame it on demonic forces.
I think that this is something that I believe now, that the number of people that listen to true crime podcasts as their main source of podcasts disassociates people with reality.
Yeah, and I also think...
feeds a view of reality that is majoritively bad.
I also think people get more fearful.
Yes, I agree.
It creates a more fearful...
So many people I know that listen to podcasts, I suggest them to people. And I don't listen to any true crime podcasts. I listen to comedians or Tim Ferriss or Aubrey Marcus, entertaining podcasts, or spiritual ones, Ram Dass ones, but never like true crime. This is how she was murdered, and like that kind of thing. My favorite murder, that type of stuff. But I know people that only listen to those and have listened to like one Rogan podcast.
For them, that's what podcasting is.
And that's what podcasts are. And they go, I listened to 5 hours of podcasts today at work. What were they about? Well, I went through 5 murders and 3 murder-suicides. And I'm like, fuck, am I my mum? Is this the same thing of like my mum yelling at me about playing Grand Theft Auto or watching The Simpsons? And it's like, you're filling your brain with filth.
It's rotting your brain.
It's rotting your brain. It's changing your mind. I'm like, not really.
Yeah. Cowabunga, Mum.
Then eat my shorts. And then I'm saying to people, like, are they filling their brains with murder and mayhem and that's causing them to disassociate?
I believe it is. And I think our belief is good enough to tell them otherwise. No, I think podcast means it's easy to consume a shitload of it, of a certain subject.
Yeah.
And whatever subject you want to go down deep on. Is that even a fucking sentence?
Deep down deep.
Deep down deep. You can. And that's great. But if you only pick one, you're going to get pretty, like, caught up in that world. The same way, to bring it back to the start. These people that listen to a lot of these true crime podcasts all of a sudden know serial killers' names and stuff. And they're like, oh, you know about Ted Bundy, right? You know what he did in 86. And you're like, no idea. And they're like, oh my gosh. All right, let me tell you. So it becomes their world. And they know things that you don't know about certain things. And for me, the biggest problem is specializing in useless fucking facts about people that were killed. No offense. is not a good place to specialize in. It's not a growth zone.
No. I think it's a bit more masochistic, kind of like, it's like watching videos about dead people. It's like, it's just dancing with negativity.
But
It's kind of like this kind of weird.
I have listened to
gruesome
some true crime podcasts, and I have found them interesting. But I've always gone, "Oh, that was a really interesting part of the thing," and now I'm happy to go do something else. But I've also listened to one that was like, "This isn't very good. How is this being stretched over 12 weeks?" And then we didn't know what was on the knife.
And I think
there was no knife. You just.
They would be. I'm not. Yeah, I'm definitely not saying they're not interesting, because I really enjoyed Chaos, the book about Charles Manson, and that's basically true crime. And I have read books about Bundy and serial killers.
Here he comes, walking it back.
And I'm just not. I read a book about a guy that writes letters to that wrote lots of letters to serial killers. I can't remember what it was. A girl that I went on a Tinder date with lent it to me. God, that reminds me, I've got to buy a fucking copy of a book.
Why?
Oh, man. I went on a Tinder date with a girl and borrowed a copy of her American Psycho book.
I thought you gave that back to her.
No. I thought I did too, but I couldn't find it.
Who cares? Fuck her.
No, because I refound her on Hinge like a couple of months ago, and she was like, "You gonna give back the book?" And I was like,
"Shout out to your mum. Pay it forward, bro. Just give it to someone else."
No, I'm gonna give it back to her. That's shit. That's me being shit. I know it's me being shit. Anyway, let's move on. It doesn't matter about it.
Don't give a book. Don't
on.
lend a book you're not prepared to lose. How about that?
No. How about the guy that slept with you and then asked to borrow the book should be less of a piece of shit and deliver the book back?
Don't judge yourself too hardly.
I'm not judging myself harshly, but I just think that's the right thing to do.
I agree that it's the right thing to do, but enough time has passed.
Anyway,
is it a first edition? Is it signed by Bret Easton Ellis?
I got this
book.
book.
Tell her to get $25 and go to the local bookstore.
I got this book off a girl, and she was like, "It's a really good true crime book." And so this guy is a uni student, and he writes lots of letters because he wants to get inside the mind of a serial killer and write a paper. He ends up speaking to, via letter, Manson, Gacy, Bundy, Ramirez, the Night Stalker, and a couple of people. And it changes him. He ends up meeting Gacy. You know, the guy that clown. He dressed up like a clown at kids' birthday parties. Not William H. Gacy. That's William H. Macy. Great actor.
Whoa, what a creepy
John Wayne Gacy.
That sounds more familiar.
He's a bad guy. He ended up even visiting him in prison. And, like, Gacy was trying to get the guy writing the letters to try to sleep with his brother and, like, tell him about it. It's really fucked up, quite a fucked up book, and it's got all the letters and the correspondence in there. Anyway, I remember finishing that and giving it back to her. I gave that one back and not seeing, I think we stopped seeing each other. And afterwards, I needed a palate cleanser. Like, I just read this thing maybe in like 2 weeks, and I needed something soft. I needed something light. I needed something happy. Just like you, a couple of weeks ago, you were talking about with Holly, not watching too many heavy movies at the moment because the reality is heavy enough. Give me some lightness. Give me some Mitchells versus the Machines.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch The fucking Machinist. I want to watch
other machine-related.
Other machine-related movies. I feel the same way about true crime. I can listen to a day of podcasts where it's like laughing and
I even love
funny,
a good documentary
educational
series. I think The Jinx is one of the best documentary series ever made. But I agree with you. I do not need it over and over and over again.
I feel the same way about horror movies. I like horror movies. But after I watched Hereditary, I needed to watch Ready Player One.
Oh, that's a great little combo. What would the third movie in your movie marathon be if that was the... Would you put Hereditary in the middle?
No, I would have put Hereditary first.
Mhm.
and then I would have put Hereditary. Maybe like The Aviator,
Oh, it's a long one.
like a biography a biographic film in the middle,
Mm.
and then ended with Ready Player One.
Okay,
That's the swashbuckler for me.
that's good. I like it. Yeah. Long story short,
If you want to get in touch via Ricky at Urban Agency.
.co.uk, and if you have a true crime podcast you'd like us to promote, get in touch. Or if you've got a true crime podcast that you think is worth listening, send it over. What were you just doing? Do you have a funny story for me to close it out?
Funny story. The other day, no, I don't. They paint me in a bad light. No, I don't have any. I don't have any.
Do you think I asked them from you because I like the ones that paint you in a bad light, or do you just think that's the kind of funny humor that you have? You have self-deprecating humor.
No,
the ready.
I just think they're the ones that come up recently. They're the ones that I think about. I have lots of funny stories, but a lot of them are vulgar, and a lot of them are kind of like.
Boys are vulgar, aren't they?
I mean, girls are too, but from my experience as a boy who's okay with some gross things, yes, boys are vulgar. But I think too much in my life, I've said the funny thing. Some of them have been true and some of them haven't been true. But they've always made it out so I've been painted as different to what I am or who I am. And as I've gotten older, I've hated the fact that some people in my life have held on to views of me because in high school I joked about fucking sucking your dad off and made a joke about fucking him because I thought it would be funny and a funny way to tease you. And then 10 years later you see him and you're like, oh, you're the guy that fucking wanted to suck my dad off. And I'm like, it was a joke against you.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Like you're being a comedian. You're being a funny comedian.
I'm trying to be funny,
yeah,
and the other person's taking it verbatim. It's like saying, oh, man, that smells so. You fart and you go, man, that smells like shit. I think I shit myself. And then the person next to you goes, oh man, see, hear that? Jono shat himself. Oh man, everyone, fucking Jono shat himself. It's so gross. Oh, does it smell like poo, Jono, because you shat it yourself? And you're like, no, I'm making the joke that it smells like I shit myself.
Yeah, if anything, you're amplifying the humor for everyone.
I'm trying to make things funny, and people are turning it around on me, being a fuckhead about it. Clearly, that exact scenario has happened to me in the way that I have responded and gotten more worked up about it. But I don't like it because I'm not to be painted in that way.
You're not a piece of shit.
No, I'm
you're
not.
One of the kindest people I know. You're a fucking lovely dude. You're funny. You're genuine. You're intelligent.
Thank you.
And all those things add up to someone that goes, I can make fun of myself.
Exactly.
And when you make fun of yourself, it's a stupid person that goes, yeah, he is dumb. And you're like, that's not what I'm saying.
But then you have to explain the joke to them.
Yeah, and then
that's too much.
That's not funny.
So I think it's better to hold back some of the stories I have. Or not even hold back. I think it's just better to...
I've got some piece of shit stories as well.
Everyone does, Jeff. But you know what the difference between us and some other people is that we're willing to share it on a possibly public forum or share them in other ways. Thanks for listening to this week's podcast. We are Ekko and Sidetrack on all social media. We've recently updated our YouTube. Go and give that a subscribe so you can keep up to date with all the latest video podcasts. And follow us on Spotify too so you can keep up to date with all our latest music releases. Big up!